You know that moment when you realize the person you married never actually loved you, just your paycheck? I had that moment 5 years ago when my wife handed me divorce papers 2 weeks after I lost my job. 2 weeks. My name is Adrian Crawford, and I'm 45 years old. Valerie didn't even wait to see if I'd land on my feet. She just looked at me like I was suddenly worthless and walked out with our son, took the house, hired this shark attorney named Amanda Roberts, and extracted every advantage while I struggled to survive on scraps. But here's what Valerie didn't count on. I rebuilt, turned nothing into a $10 million HVAC empire, documented every obstacle she threw at me. And when she showed up last month with lawyers trying to claim half of everything I built without her, I made damn sure she got exactly what she deserved. Absolutely nothing. But let me start from the beginning. Before I go any further, let me know in the comments where in the world you are watching from, and make sure to subscribe because tomorrow I will share a story you don't want to miss. I told Valerie that night at dinner. Tried to stay calm, reassuring. We were sitting in our suburban kitchen, the one with the granite countertops I'd worked overtime to afford, the custom cabinets Valerie had spent months picking out. Billy was upstairs doing homework, and I'd waited until he was out of earshot to break the news. The company restructured today, I said, setting down my fork. My entire division got eliminated. I'm out. Valerie's hand froze halfway to her water glass. Out? What do you mean out? Laid off. The whole operations management tier. It's not performance related. They're consolidating departments, bringing in outside consultants instead. So you're unemployed. She said it flat, like I'd just told her I had a terminal illness. I've got 6 months severance. That gives us a runway. And I've got 12 years of senior level experience, a network I've built for over a decade. This is temporary, Val. Setbacks happen. We'll manage. Her expression changed, went cold, calculating. I'd never seen that look before. How long until you find something comparable? I don't know. Maybe a few months. The job market's competitive right now, but I've got my resume updated. I've already started reaching out to contacts. A few months? She pushed her plate away. Adrian, we have bills. We have Billy's private school tuition. We have the mortgage on this house that costs $4,000 a month. I know what we have. I built this life. I'll build it again. Valerie stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the tile. I can't do this. Can't do what? Can't have a conversation about something that happens to millions of families every year? I can't be with someone who can't provide. She crossed her arms, and that's when I noticed she wasn't surprised, wasn't shocked. She was just ready. I didn't sign up to struggle, Adrian. The words hit like a physical blow. Are you serious right now? 12 years of marriage, and the second things get uncertain, you're ready to bail? I'm being realistic. Her voice stayed level, controlled. I've been thinking about this for a while, honestly. This just makes it clear. Makes what clear? I stood too, my pulse hammering. That you're a fair-weather wife who only sticks around when the money's good? That I need to protect myself and Billy? That I can't rely on you anymore? She reached for her purse on the counter. My lawyer will be in touch. Your lawyer? The room tilted. You already talked to a lawyer? When? This morning. I stared at her. This morning. I lost my job 8 hours ago and you already retained counsel? I'm not stupid, Adrian. I'm not going to wait around while you spiral and drag us down with you. Spiral? My voice rose. It's been 1 day. 1 day and you've already decided I'm going to fail? That I'm not worth supporting through a rough patch? I have to think about Billy's future. Billy's future includes having a father who doesn't give up at the first obstacle. What kind of example are you setting by running the second things get hard? Valerie headed for the door. I'm staying at my sister's tonight. We'll figure out custody arrangements through the lawyers. I moved to block the doorway, anger burning through the shock. Like hell we will. You don't get to take my son away from me because I hit a temporary setback. Move, Adrian. No. You want to leave? Fine. But you don't get to destroy Billy's stability because you're shallow and materialistic. I said move. Her voice went shrill, and she pulled out her phone. Or I'll call the cops and tell them you're being threatening. I went very still. You'd lie to the police? Use them as a weapon because I won't just roll over and let you walk out with my kid? I'll do whatever I need to do to protect myself. She held the phone up. Last chance. In that moment, I saw exactly who I'd married, not the woman I thought I knew. Someone else entirely. Someone willing to weaponize anything for advantage. Willing to betray 12 years over a single day's unemployment. I stepped aside. "Get out," I said quietly. "But understand this, Valerie. You're making the biggest mistake of your life, and I'm going to make sure you remember it." She actually smiled, this cold, smug expression that cut deeper than anything she'd said. "Good luck with that," from the unemployment line. She walked past me, grabbed her overnight bag from the hall closet like she'd already packed it, and left. I heard her car start, saw the taillights disappear down the street. I stood alone in the kitchen I'd worked myself half to death to afford, and I made myself a promise. I would rebuild. I would succeed beyond anything we'd had before. And when Valerie realized what she'd thrown away, I'd make damn sure she couldn't touch any of it. 3 days after Valerie left, I sat across from Fernando Moore in his cramped office above a bail bondsman. The furniture was secondhand, the carpet stained, and the whole place smelled like burnt coffee. It was exactly what I could afford. Fernando was maybe 50, with this scrappy look that came from years fighting uphill battles. He flipped through the papers I'd brought, the ones Valerie's process server had handed me the night before. "Amanda Roberts," he said, shaking his head. "Of course she hired Amanda Roberts. You know her? Everyone in family law knows her. She's a shark, expensive, aggressive, and she wins a lot." He set the papers down. "She's filed for full custody, maximum child support, and half of everything you own. Standard scorched earth approach." My jaw tightened. I was married for 12 years. I lost my job 3 days ago. How is she already moving this fast? Because she can, and because she knows the longer this drags out, the more chance you have to stabilize. Fernando leaned back in his chair. "She's painting you as unstable, financially irresponsible, potentially neglectful due to your employment situation. That's insane. That's strategy." He tapped the filing. "Look, here's the reality. Courts favor the parent with financial stability when it comes to custody. Right now, that's Valerie. She's still got her administrative job, steady income, the marital home. You've got unemployment and an uncertain future. I've got 12 years of being a good father. Doesn't that count?" It should. But judges make decisions based on what they see right now, not what you were 6 months ago. Fernando pulled out a legal pad. "Best case scenario? We negotiate shared custody and child support based on imputed income, what you should be earning given your experience. And worst case? She gets primary custody, you get supervised visitation, and you're paying support based on your old salary, even though you're making nothing." The words landed like punches. How do I fight this? Get a job. Any job. Tomorrow, if possible. Fernando's expression was grim. Show the court you're stable and motivated. Document every interaction with her, every penny you spend on Billy. We need to prove you're the better parent, or at least an equal one. I spent the next 3 months in a hell I didn't know existed. I sent out 200 resumes, customized every one, followed up obsessively, called in every favor I had. The market was brutal. Everyone wanted younger talent they could pay less. My 12 years of experience made me overqualified for entry positions and too expensive for anything comparable to what I'd had. Meanwhile, Amanda Roberts filed motion after motion, each one portraying me as a deadbeat who'd abandoned his responsibilities. Never mind that I was burning through my severance trying to stay current on the mortgage Valerie still lived in. Never mind that I'd never missed a single obligation to Billy. The temporary custody hearing was a nightmare. Judge Clarkson was this stern woman in her 60s who looked at me like I was already guilty. Amanda Roberts stood up and delivered her argument with perfect precision. "Your Honor, Mr. Crawford has demonstrated financial irresponsibility and is potentially neglectful of his son's needs. He lost his position due to what he claims was restructuring, but regardless of cause, he's now unemployed with no immediate prospects. Meanwhile, Ms. Crawford maintains steady employment and provides a stable home environment. The child's best interests clearly favor—" "Your Honor," Fernando interrupted, "Mr. Crawford lost his position due to corporate restructuring, not performance issues. He has 12 years of exemplary work history and has been actively seeking employment. Has he found employment?" Judge Clarkson cut him off. Not yet, Your Honor. But then Ms. Crawford's concerns about stability are valid. She didn't even look up from the papers. Temporary custody to the mother. Father gets supervised visitation every other Saturday until he can demonstrate consistent income. Supervised visitation. Like I was some kind of danger to my own son. I saw Billy twice a month after that, always with some court-appointed supervisor watching us like I might kidnap him or worse. He was confused, hurt. He asked why he couldn't come to my apartment, why Mommy said we needed someone there with us. I didn't have good answers. How do you explain to a 10-year-old that his mother weaponized the family court system? 6 months after that dinner when Valerie walked out, the final divorce decree arrived. Fernando called me back to his office. Late afternoon sun slanted through the dusty blinds as he handed me the papers. I'm sorry, Adrian. We did what we could. I read through it. Valerie got the house. I couldn't afford the mortgage anyway. She got primary custody with me paying $2,400 a month based on my previous income. She got half our savings, half my 401k, the newer car. I got an efficiency apartment in a neighborhood where I heard gunshots at night, and weekend visitation once I found a job. She destroyed me and the system rewarded her for it. I said quietly. Fernando's expression was sympathetic. The system protects children, and right now, she looks like stability. She abandoned our marriage the second things got hard. That's not stability, that's cowardice. Maybe so, but cowardice with a paycheck beats honor with an eviction notice. He stood up. Find work, Adrian. Any work. Rebuild. That's your only play now. I sat there holding those papers as the sun dropped lower, reading through the legal language that formalized how thoroughly Valerie had won. The woman who'd left me for being temporarily unemployed had just extracted maximum advantage from every system designed to protect families. And I couldn't do a damn thing about it. 3 weeks later, I walked into Summit Commercial HVAC as their newest sales associate. The office smelled like burnt coffee and desperation. My manager, this guy named Rick Torres who wore polo shirts 2 sizes too small, handed me a binder full of product specs and client lists. 42,000 base, he said. Plus commission if you actually sell something. Most guys wash out in 6 months. I nodded. Didn't tell him I had no choice but to make it work. The math was brutal. After taxes, I took home about $2,600 monthly. Child support ate $2,400 of that immediately. Rent on my efficiency apartment was another $850. That left me with maybe $200 for food, utilities, gas, and everything else. I ate a lot of ramen that first year. But I learned. Every service call I went on, every contractor I shadowed, every system I studied, I absorbed it all. The HVAC industry wasn't complicated once you understood the fundamentals. Most of it was just maintenance and common sense repairs. What struck me was how badly small commercial property owners got ripped off. A guy would call one of the big contractors about a cooling issue, and they'd quote him $5,000 for a compressor replacement when all he needed was a $200 part and an hour of labor. There was a gap there, a real opportunity. I started freelancing on weekends, small repairs, maintenance contracts, anything I could handle with basic tools. I used my sales commissions to buy equipment piece by piece, a multimeter, a manifold gauge set, a recovery machine I found used on Craigslist. Dominic Parker gave me my first real break. We'd met at a networking event for small business owners, him in commercial real estate, me barely hanging on in HVAC sales. He managed a dozen rental properties and was constantly dealing with contractor bills that made no sense. Can you take a look at one of my buildings? He asked one Saturday. The AC's been acting up and the last guy quoted me $4,000. I fixed it in 90 minutes. Bad capacitor. Cost him $200 total. You're good at this, Dominic said, handing me a check. Better than the clowns charging 3 times as much. I'm just honest. Novel concept, apparently. He laughed. Honesty that saves people money? That's a business model, brother. Word spread through his network. More property owners, more referrals. I was working my sales job 40 hours a week and freelancing another 30 on top of that, sleeping maybe 5 hours a night. I saw Billy every other weekend. The supervised visits had finally ended once I had steady employment, but the custody arrangement stayed frozen. Valerie had successfully painted me as the unstable parent during the divorce, and modifying it would mean another court battle I couldn't afford. Not yet, anyway. 8 months into the sales job, I quit. Rick Torres thought I was insane. You're walking away from steady income? I'm walking towards something better. I launched Crawford Climate Solutions with a used van I bought for $3,000, a cell phone, and business cards I printed at FedEx. Just me. No office, no employees, no safety net. Year 1 revenue, $68,000. I barely survived, but I survived. Year 2, $240,000. I hired 2 techs. Year 3, $890,000. Expanded to 3 cities, landed my first major property management contract. Billy was 11 now, asking questions I couldn't answer. Why do you live in that tiny apartment when mom has the big house? Because every cent I make goes back into the business, I wanted to say. Because I'm building something that'll matter someday. Because your mother bet against me and I'm proving her wrong. Instead, I said, I'm working on some things, buddy. It'll get better. Year 4, $2.1 million revenue. I acquired 2 smaller competitors. 18 employees now. Year 5, $4.7 million revenue. I hired a CEO to run operations while I focused on growth strategy. My accountant told me my net worth had crossed $10 million between company equity, real estate investments, and the portfolio I'd built. I moved into a modern downtown loft, bought a Tesla, started dating Clarissa Taylor, a corporate attorney who was everything Valerie wasn't. Brilliant, ambitious, supportive. Life was good, better than good. I'd rebuilt from nothing into something magnificent. Then, mid-morning on a Tuesday, my office phone rang. Mr. Crawford? The voice was smooth, practiced. This is Amanda Roberts. I represent your ex-wife in a post-decree matter. We need to discuss modification of the divorce settlement. My blood went cold. The divorce was finalized 5 years ago. There's nothing to modify. Actually, under California law, there are provisions for revisiting asset division when one party experiences significant financial improvement that was directly enabled by marital assets or support provided during the marriage. I laughed, but there was no humor in it. Marital assets. Valerie took everything except my ability to work. I built my company from nothing after she divorced me for being unemployed. You built it using skills and industry connections developed during your marriage. Ms. Crawford supported your career for 12 years, enabling you to acquire the expertise that made your current success possible. We're filing a motion to modify the settlement. Ms. Crawford is entitled to a portion of your current assets as delayed marital property. Go to hell. We'll see you in court, Mr. Crawford. The line went dead. I hung up and immediately dialed Fernando. He answered on the second ring. Adrian, what's up? Valerie's coming after my business. Silence. Then, what? Her lawyer just called, Amanda Roberts. Says they're filing a motion to modify the settlement. Claims Valerie's entitled to a portion of my assets because I built the company using skills developed during the marriage. She's doing what? Fernando's voice went from confused to outraged in half a second. That's the most absurd legal theory I've heard in 20 years of practice. Can they win? Another pause. Longer this time. Honestly? Maybe. There's some precedent in California for post-decree modifications when there's substantial financial change. Usually it's lottery winnings or inheritances, but a creative lawyer could argue. Fernando, can they win? It'll depend on the judge, and how good their argument is, and how well we prove you built this independently. I gripped the phone tighter. I did build it independently. She wasn't there. She wanted nothing to do with me when I was broke. I know, but we need to prove that legally. He exhaled slowly. This is going to be expensive, Adrian. Really expensive. I don't care what it costs. She's not getting a dime of what I built. Okay. Let me make some calls. This isn't my specialty. I need to bring in someone who handles complex post-decree litigation. Do it. 2 days later, I sat in a conference room with Fernando and the specialist he'd brought in, Jerry Adams, this intense guy in his 50s who'd handled hundreds of modification cases. Jerry didn't waste time. Amanda Roberts is good. She wouldn't file this unless she thought she had an angle. What angle? I asked. That I was married to someone who betrayed me, so now she deserves my money? The angle is that marriage is an economic partnership, and career development during marriage is a shared marital asset. Jerry opened his briefcase, pulled out a legal pad covered in notes. She'll argue you wouldn't have had the skills, connections, or industry knowledge to build Crawford Climate without the stability and support of your marriage. That's insane. It's creative lawyering. He looked up at me. Here's what they'll argue. During your 12-year marriage, you developed expertise in operations management, built professional networks, learned business systems, all while being supported by the marital partnership, shared income, shared household duties, shared parenting. When you lost your job, you used those skills to transition into HVAC and build your company. Therefore, your current success is a product of marital investment. I learned HVAC after the divorce. I started my company with nothing. But you used business acumen developed during the marriage. You leveraged professional contacts made while married. See where this goes? I wanted to put my fist through the table. So because I was married when I learned basic competence, she gets to profit from everything I do afterward? That's what she's arguing. Jerry tapped his pen against the legal pad. Now here's how we fight it. We prove your current success required skills and knowledge you acquired entirely post-divorce. We show your HVAC expertise was learned independently. We demonstrate the marriage actually hindered your career development rather than supporting it. And we document exactly how she abandoned the partnership the moment it wasn't profitable for her. I can prove all of that. Good. Jerry leaned forward. Because we're also going to countersue for modification of child support and custody. You're paying $2,400 a month based on income you haven't earned in 5 years. Meanwhile, you're making substantially more now. We'll offer to increase support to $4,000 monthly. Shows you're willing to support Billy appropriately. But we'll also request joint physical custody. Billy's 15. The court will consider his preferences. If he wants more time with you, that matters. Hope flickered in my chest for the first time since Amanda's call. You think we can get that? If Billy says he wants it and you can demonstrate you're stable and involved? Yeah, I think we've got a shot. Jerry pulled out more documents. Here's the strategy. We defend against her asset claim while simultaneously going on offense for custody modification. We paint you as the parent who rebuilt, who's been consistently involved, who's offering appropriate support. We paint her as someone who abandoned the partnership and is now trying to profit from your post-divorce success. Fernando nodded. It's aggressive, but it's the right play. How long will this take? I asked. Months, Jerry said. Maybe 6 to 8 before we get a hearing. We need to gather evidence, take depositions, build the case properly. Whatever it takes. We spent the next 3 hours going through every detail. My HVAC certifications, my business formation documents, client testimonials, financial records showing I'd funded everything through post-divorce loans and income. When we finally finished, it was dark outside. I gathered the copies of our legal strategy, stood to leave. Jerry walked me to the door. Adrian, understand this is war. Valerie's coming after everything you built. We're going to fight hard, but it's going to get ugly. Good, I said. I've been waiting 5 years for this. I left the conference room carrying a folder full of battle plans, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time. Not just hope. Purpose. Valerie had made her move. Now it was my turn. Saturday morning, I pulled up outside Valerie's house, the house that used to be mine, to pick up Billy for our regular visit. He was already waiting on the porch, backpack slung over one shoulder. Hey, Dad. He climbed into the passenger seat, tossed his bag in the back. Hey, kid. Hungry? Starving. We drove to this diner we'd been going to for the past year, our spot. The waitress knew us by name, always had Billy's chocolate milkshake ready before we even ordered. Once we'd settled into our usual booth and placed our orders, Billy got quiet. That look on his face, I knew it meant something was coming. Mom says you got really rich, he said finally. I took a sip of coffee. I did okay. Built a good business. She says she helped you do that. Billy picked at his napkin. That you owe her. I chose my words carefully. Your mom and I were married for a long time. But I started my company after we divorced. Everything I built on my own. She's really mad about it. Billy looked uncomfortable. She talks about you a lot. About how you abandoned us and now you're being selfish. Those words hit harder than they should have. That's not what happened, Billy. I never abandoned you. I've been here every weekend for 5 years. I know. He hesitated, meeting my eyes. Can I ask you something? Anything. Why'd you guys really get divorced? I put my coffee down, looked at my son, 15 years old enough to handle the truth. Because when I lost my job, your mom decided she didn't want to be married anymore. She left before I even had a chance to find a new position. Because you didn't have money? That was part of it, yeah. Billy was quiet for a long moment. That's messed up. It was. But I don't blame her for everything. Marriage is complicated. Sometimes people's priorities don't align. She makes it sound like you failed us. I never failed you, Billy. I leaned forward. I've fought every day for 5 years to be in your life and to build something stable. Some people measure success by money, some by character. Your mom and I just measure differently. He nodded slowly, then said what I'd been hoping to hear for years. For what it's worth, Dad, I want to spend more time with you. The every other weekend thing sucks. I'm working on that. There's a hearing coming up where we're going to ask the judge to reconsider custody. Good. Billy's voice was firm. I'm 15. I should get a say in where I live. The next 6 weeks were a blur of preparation. I gathered every piece of evidence Jerry needed. My HVAC certification from the technical college I'd attended after the divorce. Proof of every course I'd taken to learn the trade from scratch. Dominic came through with a written statement about how I'd built my client base. How he'd referred me to property managers who'd never heard of me before. How the business grew organically through word of mouth and quality work. My financial records told the clearest story. Crawford Climate Solutions had been funded entirely through post-divorce income. Personal loans I'd taken out in my name alone. Reinvested profits from those first brutal years of 16-hour days. Nothing from the marriage, not $1. I spent more time with Billy, too. Valerie made it difficult. She'd forget to pack his clothes, or she'd schedule dentist appointments on my Saturdays without telling me, forcing last-minute scrambles. Subtle sabotage, always with plausible deniability. But Billy and I found our rhythm anyway. We'd cook dinner together on Friday nights, watch movies, talk about school and his robotics club, and the girl he liked but wouldn't admit he liked. Mom doesn't like that I'm happy here, he told me one night while we were cleaning up after dinner. Why do you think that? She keeps asking if you're buying me things to make me like you more, or if you're talking bad about her. I've never talked bad about your mom to you. I know. That's why it's weird when she does it about you. I filed that information away. Jerry would want to know. 6 weeks later, morning of the first hearing, I met Fernando and Jerry in the parking lot outside the courthouse. Fernando carried 2 briefcases full of documentation. Jerry had his game face on, all business, no small talk. Ready? Jerry asked. Been ready for 5 years. We walked toward the courthouse entrance together, 3 men heading into battle. And somewhere inside that building, Valerie and Amanda Roberts were waiting with their own arsenal of arguments about why I owed her a piece of everything I'd built without her. Time to prove them wrong. The courtroom felt smaller than I expected. Judge Wilson Harris sat behind the bench, mid-50s, professional demeanor, studying papers while we filed in. Valerie and Amanda Roberts sat across the aisle. Valerie looked polished, put together, every inch the wronged ex-wife. She wouldn't look at me. Not once. Amanda stood first, heels clicking on the tile floor as she approached the bench. Your Honor, during the marriage, Mr. Crawford developed the professional skills, business acumen, and industry contacts that enabled his current financial success. While he may have formally started his company post-divorce, the foundation was laid during the marital partnership. Ms. Crawford supported that partnership for 12 years, and she's entitled to share in the delayed fruits of that investment. She had charts. Color-coded timelines showing my career progression from entry-level to senior management during the marriage years. An expert witness, some vocational economist named Dr. Richard Brennan, testified about how my current earning capacity was directly attributable to skills developed in the marital period. Mr. Crawford's management expertise, his understanding of operational systems, his professional network, all of these were cultivated while married to Ms. Crawford, Dr. Brennan said, pointing to his graphs. His transition to HVAC may have occurred post-divorce, but the foundational business competencies that enabled that transition were marital assets. It was impressive, slick, terrifying. I watched the judge taking notes and felt my chest tighten. Then Jerry stood. Your Honor, the petitioner's argument would have us believe that being married creates a lifetime claim on any future success your former spouse achieves. That's not how marital property works. His voice cut through the courtroom. Marriage is a partnership, yes, but that partnership ended 5 years ago when Ms. Crawford chose to divorce Mr. Crawford specifically because of his employment situation. Let me be clear about what happened here. Jerry walked toward the bench, hands clasped behind his back. The moment Mr. Crawford lost his job, Ms. Crawford filed for divorce. She didn't wait to see if he'd recover. She didn't offer support during a difficult time. She immediately hired counsel and pursued maximum financial advantage. The record shows she fought for full custody, maximum support, and the most favorable asset division possible. She extracted every penny she could from the marriage, and she did it specifically because she deemed Mr. Crawford financially insufficient. Now, 5 years later, after Mr. Crawford has rebuilt his career through his own effort, learning and sacrifice, none of which involved Ms. Crawford, she returns claiming she's entitled to more. Jerry let that hang in the air. This is not delayed marital property, Your Honor. This is opportunistic overreach by someone who explicitly rejected the partnership when it required actual partnership. He presented our evidence, my HVAC certifications with dates clearly showing post-divorce completion, written testimonials from Dominic and property managers confirming I'd built the business independently, financial records proving Crawford Climate was funded entirely through post-divorce income and personal loans. Then Jerry dropped the real bomb. Furthermore, Your Honor, we're counter-petitioning for modification of custody and support. Mr. Crawford is currently paying support based on income he hasn't earned in 5 years, while his actual income has increased substantially. We're proposing an increase to $4,000 monthly, nearly double the current amount, and joint physical custody. Billy Crawford is now 15 and has expressed a clear preference to spend more time with his father, who has demonstrated complete financial stability. Amanda stood so fast her chair scraped backward. Your Honor, this is a transparent attempt to... It's an attempt to properly support his son while maintaining a meaningful relationship, Jerry interrupted. Something Ms. Crawford has actively obstructed for years by using the temporary custody arrangement from the divorce as a permanent weapon. Judge Harris held up a hand. I've heard enough for today. This is complex, and I want time to review the filings thoroughly. He shuffled papers, made notes. We'll reconvene in 30 days for full evidentiary hearing. Both parties will have opportunity to present witnesses and additional evidence. In the meantime, the current custody and support arrangements remain in place. The gavel came down. Outside, Valerie and Amanda huddled together near their car, heads close in urgent conversation. I caught Valerie looking at me once, just a flash across the parking lot. Her expression was different from the cold calculation I'd seen 5 years ago. Something softer, uncertain, maybe doubt, maybe regret. Too late for either. 30 days, Jerry said beside me. Then we finish this. I nodded, watching Valerie turn away. 30 days until she learned what consequences actually looked like. 30 days later, I sat in Jerry's conference room at 6 in the morning, running through mock cross-examination for probably the 100th time. They're going to push hard on the skills question, Jerry said, playing Amanda's role. They'll say you used business acumen developed during the marriage. How do you respond? I learned HVAC from scratch after the divorce. Everything I know about that industry came from courses, certifications, and working alongside technicians. My business skills came from actually building a business, not from managing operations for someone else. Good. Keep it simple, factual. Don't let her bait you into anger. 3 hours later, we walked into Judge Harris's courtroom. Amanda called her witnesses first. Dr. Patricia Morrison, a marriage counselor who'd never met either of us, spent 45 minutes explaining the economic interdependence inherent in marital partnerships, how spouses support each other's career development, how household management frees the working partner to focus on professional growth. It was all theory, abstract, nothing to do with my actual marriage. Then came Richard Keating, a forensic accountant Amanda had hired. He'd built this elaborate model showing what percentage of my current net worth could theoretically be attributed to skills I'd acquired during the 12 years I was married. Based on standard human capital valuation models, Keating said, adjusting his glasses, approximately 62% of Mr. Crawford's current earning capacity derives from competencies developed during the marital period. 62%. He'd actually calculated it to a decimal point, like my life was a spreadsheet. Jerry declined to cross-examine either of them. Let them waste the court's time with theory, he'd told me. We'll deal in facts. Then Valerie took the stand. I hadn't been this close to her in 5 years. She'd dressed carefully, professional but not flashy, like she was going to a job interview. Her hands trembled slightly as she placed them on the armrest. Amanda walked her through the narrative they'd prepared. Valerie's voice was soft, measured, with just the right amount of emotion breaking through. I gave Adrian the best years of my life, she said, meeting the judge's eyes. I supported his career moves, managed our household, raised our son. I was there for every late night, every stressful project, every career decision. I believed in him. And when Mr. Crawford lost his job, Amanda prompted, what were your concerns? I was scared, not just for myself but for Billy. We had a 10-year-old child who needed stability, who needed to know his life wasn't going to fall apart. Valerie's voice wavered. I made a difficult decision to protect our child's security. And now, seeing Mr. Crawford's financial success, how does that make you feel? Betrayed. Valerie looked directly at me for the first time. Like I invested everything in a partnership, supported him while he built his skills and his career, and then the moment I wasn't convenient anymore, I got discarded. And he kept all the benefits of what we built together. It was a masterful performance, complete fiction but masterful. Then Jerry stood for cross-examination. Ms. Crawford, when exactly did you file for divorce after Mr. Crawford lost his job? It was about 2 weeks later. 2 weeks. In those 2 weeks, did Mr. Crawford indicate he was giving up on finding new employment? No, but I knew. Yes or no, Ms. Crawford? No. Did he stop contributing to household expenses during those 2 weeks? He couldn't. He had no income. He had 6 months of severance, correct? That's not income. Valerie hesitated. I suppose technically. So he did have income. He was contributing. He was actively job hunting. And you filed for divorce anyway. I had to think about Billy's future. Did you discuss these concerns with Mr. Crawford before hiring an attorney? Not in depth. Not at all, actually. Jerry pulled a document from his folder. Your attorney's billing records show you retained her services one day after Mr. Crawford was laid off. One day, Miss Crawford. That's not protecting your child. That's abandoning your spouse the moment he needed you most. Amanda objected. Judge Harris sustained it, but the damage was done. Then it was my turn. Jerry walked me through everything. The layoff, Valerie's immediate exit, the divorce that stripped me down to nothing, the decision to rebuild. Why HVAC? Jerry asked. Because I saw a need. Property owners getting exploited by big contractors. I could offer better service at fair prices. I kept my voice steady. It wasn't about getting rich. It was about building something stable so I could be there for my son. Did you use skills or connections from your marriage to build Crawford Climate? No. I learned HVAC from scratch, took courses at night, got certified, worked alongside experienced techs learning the trade. My first clients came from Dominic Parker, a friend I met after the divorce. The business was built entirely independently. I looked directly at Judge Harris. Your Honor, Valerie made her choice 5 years ago. She chose to leave when things got hard. She chose to fight for maximum advantage in the divorce. She got exactly what she asked for. The house, primary custody, generous support. What she didn't get was to keep me as a backup plan. I paused. I rebuilt without her, and she's not entitled to the results of work she had no part in. Amanda's cross-examination came fast and sharp. Mr. Crawford, isn't it true you're only proposing increased child support now as a tactical maneuver? I'm proposing it because it's appropriate given my income, and I'm requesting joint custody because my son wants more time with his father. Convenient timing, though, wouldn't you say? What's convenient is my ex-wife waiting until I'm successful to suddenly claim she deserves credit for it. Then Billy took the stand. He was nervous. I could see his hands gripping the armrest, but his voice stayed clear. I want to live with my dad more, he said when Judge Harris asked him directly. Every other weekend isn't enough. He's been there for me my whole life, and now that I'm older, I want to actually have a real relationship with him. What about your mother? The judge asked gently. I love Mom, but she talks about Dad like he's a bad person, and he's not. He works hard. He's always made time for me. I just want things to be more fair. 90 seconds, that might change everything. Late afternoon, the testimony concluded. Judge Harris closed his notebook. I'll take this under advisement. Expect a ruling within 2 weeks. The gavel came down. I walked out into the fading sunlight, Fernando and Jerry flanking me, and realized I had no idea which way this would go. 2 weeks felt like 2 years. I tried to focus on work, on client meetings, on the expansion plan Sam Hernandez kept pushing. But my mind kept circling back to Judge Harris's chambers, to Billy's testimony, to the question of whether I'd protected what I'd built or just delayed Valerie taking a piece of it. Fernando called mid-morning on a Tuesday. I was reviewing quarterly financials when his name lit up my phone. Tell me, I said. Sit down first. Just tell me, Fernando. He took a breath. Judge denied Valerie's claim for post-decree modification, said her legal theory was insufficient and you clearly built your business independently of the marriage. Relief hit me like a wave. And custody? Joint physical. 50-50 split. Starts in 2 weeks. I actually laughed. We won. We actually won. There's more. His tone shifted. Judge increased your child support. We proposed $4,000, that's fine. He went to $6,500 monthly. The number stopped me cold. What? He's using a modified income share model based on your current earnings. Said Billy should benefit proportionally from your financial success. Fernando paused. That's $78,000 a year, Adrian. I did the math fast. Nearly double what we'd offered. That's insane. It's actually in line with California guidelines for your income bracket. Could have been worse. How could it possibly be worse? There's a second catch. He sounded like he was bracing himself. Judge ordered you to pay half of Valerie's legal fees, $145,000. The words didn't make sense at first. I'm sorry, what? Her attorney fees. You're covering half. Judge said her modification attempt was reasonable, even though the claim failed, and your original decree has a fee-sharing provision for major post-divorce litigation. She tried to steal from me, Fernando. She lost. And I have to pay her legal bills. Half of them. It's discretionary. He could have made you pay all of it. I stood up, paced to the window. So I protected my business from being taken, but I'm still out $145,000 plus my own legal costs. Plus I'm paying $6,500 a month in support. That's the reality, yes. How much total? All in? Fernando was quiet for a moment. With our fees, her fees, and the first year of increased support, you're looking at just over $300,000 in costs. $300,000. I'd won. Protected the $10 million. Kept my company intact. Got joint custody of my son. But Valerie still walked away with a massive chunk of my money. Adrian? Fernando's voice pulled me back. The big wins were protecting your business and getting Billy. Those were the goals. Yeah. My jaw was tight. Yeah, you're right. I know it doesn't feel like winning right now. It feels like she dragged me through hell for 6 months, lost her case, and still extracted nearly $150,000 from me as a consolation prize. The system's not perfect. The system's broken. I rubbed my face. Thanks for the call, Fernando. Send me the final order when you have it. I hung up and stood there staring at downtown Seattle, at the city I'd conquered after Valerie tried to destroy me. Then I pulled out my phone and texted Billy. Court ruled we're going to 50-50 custody. You'll be staying with me half the time now. His response came back immediately. That's awesome, Dad. When do we start? 2 weeks. Need to get your room set up first, can't wait. I read those 2 words 3 times. That helped. Knowing Billy would actually be living with me, not just visiting, not just supervised weekends, but actually sharing a life with me. That was what mattered. That's what I kept telling myself anyway. That evening, I sat in my loft with the lights off, staring at the city sprawled out below. The numbers kept running through my head. 300,000 in total costs. 78,000 a year in support. Valerie had lost the war. She didn't get a piece of my company. Didn't get to claim credit for success she had nothing to do with. But she'd won one hell of a battle. And the thing that made my chest tight? She knew it. Amanda Roberts would tell her the outcome, and Valerie would understand she'd walked away with nearly 150 grand of my money just for trying to take more. The system rewarded her for coming after me. You ever notice how justice and fairness aren't the same thing? I'd learned that 5 years ago during the divorce. I'd just gotten a refresher course. My phone buzzed. Clarissa, how'd it go? Won custody, lost a lot of money, coming over? Not tonight. Need to think. She sent back a heart emoji and left me alone. I sat there until the city lights blurred, until the anger settled into something colder and harder. Valerie had lost. I'd protected what I built, but she'd still taken a pound of flesh on her way out the door. 2 weeks later, Billy carried a duffel bag into my loft for the first time under the new custody arrangement. This is it? I looked at the single bag. Where's the rest of your stuff? Mom said she'd bring it later. Billy set the bag down. She forgot to pack most of it. Of course she did. That became the pattern. Valerie forgot things constantly. Billy's school books, his favorite hoodie, his phone charger. She scheduled doctor's appointments on my days without telling me, then acted surprised when I showed up at pickup, confused about why Billy wasn't there. Subtle sabotage. Death by 1,000 small inconveniences. But Billy and I found our rhythm anyway. I took him shopping that first week. New clothes, new books, new everything for his room. Decorate it however you want, I told him. This is your space. He went with navy blue walls, posters of robots and space shuttles, a desk by the window that looked out over the city. His room, his rules. We cooked together most nights. Billy turned out to have a knack for stir-fry that I definitely didn't inherit from me. We hit the gym on weekends, worked out side by side, talked about school, about girls he liked, about college plans even though he was only 15. It was everything I'd missed for 5 years. 3 months in, Billy came out of his room one night while I was reading on the couch. Can I ask you something? Always. He sat down. Does Mom ever talk to you about me? Not really, why? She keeps asking if you're buying me things to make me like you more. Billy picked at a thread on the cushion. Or if you're talking bad about her. I've never talked bad about your mom to you. I know. That's why it's weird when she does it about you. He looked up. She doesn't like that I'm happy here. I'm sorry you're in the middle of this. It's not your fault. Billy shrugged. I just wish she'd let it go, you know? Let me be happy in both places. That's all I've ever wanted for you. A few days later, Valerie called me directly for the first time in years. We need to talk. About what? About Billy. About everything. Her voice sounded different. Tired. Can we meet? We met at a coffee shop downtown. Neutral territory. Valerie looked older than her 43 years when she walked in. The Polish was gone, replaced by something worn and faded. What's this about? I asked once we'd both sat down. She stirred her coffee for a long moment. I made a mistake. Which one? There've been several. The lawsuit. She wouldn't meet my eyes. Trying to get part of your business. Amanda convinced me I had a case, and I was angry that you'd become so successful while I was still what? Struggling. She finally looked up. I'm working 2 jobs now to make ends meet. The child support helps, but with Billy half-time I lost the state assistance I was getting before. My sister moved to Oregon, so I lost my free childcare. Everything's been falling apart. I felt nothing. No sympathy, no satisfaction, just nothing. You made choices, Valerie. You chose to divorce me when I was at my lowest. You chose to fight for maximum advantage. You chose to try to claim credit for success you had nothing to do with. Choices have consequences. I know. Her voice cracked. I see how happy Billy is with you. How stable his life is when he's at your place. And I realize I could have had that. We could have had that together if I hadn't panicked. You didn't panic. I leaned forward. You revealed who you actually were. Tears ran down her face. I'm trying to apologize. For leaving. For the lawsuit. For all of it. I thought I was protecting myself and Billy. All I did was hurt everyone, including myself. I studied her. 5 years ago, this might have meant something. Now it just felt empty. I appreciate the apology, I said finally. But it doesn't change anything. We have a custody arrangement that works for Billy. I'll continue to pay support as ordered. Beyond that, we're just co-parents. Nothing more. I understand. She wiped her eyes. Is there someone else? For you? There is. Clarissa. She's an attorney. Smart, supportive. Nothing like, I caught myself. She's great. Valerie nodded slowly. Good. That's good. We finished our coffee in silence. 6 months later, life had settled into something better than I'd imagined possible. Billy was thriving. His grades jumped a full letter. He joined the robotics club at school, and he'd started actually talking to me about things that mattered. Fears, dreams, all of it. Crawford Climate crossed $8 million in annual revenue. I promoted 3 people from within, expanded into Portland and Boise, started mentoring young entrepreneurs through a local business program. Clarissa moved in with me. She understood partnership the way Valerie never had. Mutual support, not transactional obligation. Billy liked her. That mattered more than anything. One Saturday, Billy and I were in the garage working on his robotics project when he asked, Dad, do you ever regret how things turned out? With your mom? Yeah. I set down the wrench. Billy, here's what I learned. When someone shows you who they really are in the hardest moments, believe them. Your mom couldn't handle me at my worst, so she doesn't get to celebrate me at my best. That's not bitterness, that's wisdom. But you're not mean to her. You could be. Being cruel wouldn't make me happy. But neither would letting her back into my life. I looked at him. I built something good after she left, and I protected it when she tried to take it. That's enough. Billy nodded thoughtfully. I heard she's been having a rough time. She has been, still working multiple jobs, struggling financially. Dating hasn't worked out. Turns out most people aren't interested in someone whose main trait is abandoning partners during hardship. I paused. I heard through mutual friends she told people leaving me was the biggest mistake of her life. Does that make you feel better? It makes me feel vindicated. But mostly, I shrugged. I just don't care anymore. That evening, I stood on my balcony with Clarissa beside me, Billy inside doing homework at the kitchen table. The city spread out below us, lights flickering on as dusk settled in. I'd gotten everything Valerie couldn't. Genuine partnership, earned success, a life built on character instead of calculation. She'd wanted a piece of my empire because she thought she'd helped build it. The truth was simpler. She'd tried to tear me down, and I'd built something she could never touch. That's the best revenge of all. Not needing revenge at all. Just living well and keeping the people who betrayed you away from everything they didn't earn. I believe stories such as this find us for a reason. If this one touches you, please subscribe. I share a new one every day. In the meantime, there are 2 stories on the screen that are even better.